And interestingly, my batch was the new syllabus for CS, and in the new syllabus there were only 2 people cleared. One was me and one was someone else, and both of us got rank, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
But the point is, like, that is how the syllabus was.
Do you want some more water?
No, I'm just waiting for the camera to run out of battery. But
How many people would have applied?
good question. Like, I don't know the answer.
Okay.
So this is like this advertisement where like a guy comes and say like, mom is making a rasagulla. They ask like, okay, what is your like place? I'm like, second place. How many people ran? Like only 2 people. Might be the case. I don't know. But as I know that like.
Hi everyone, welcome to Conversation with Kushal once again. Today we have one of the youngest overachievers who have achieved so much in his life that if I talk about his achievements, I'm going to fall short of words. He is none other than Sriram, and he's the Vice President of Bain Capital as of now. He's also awarded the CA 40 Under 40 awards, which ICI recently introduced. And apart from that, he's a CA Final All India Rank 1, CS Intermediate All India Rank 1, CS Final All India Rank 7, right?
6.
Yeah, 6. And CA Inter All India Rank 7. I mean, he's like one of the most prodigies. I think इतना rank आने के बाद भी like मतलब क्या ही करेंगे इतने achievements के बाद. So let me welcome Sriram. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation, and I'm sure like people are going to be flattered by all your achievements.
First of all, thanks a lot, Kushal, for inviting me. And to whomsoever watching this, like, I don't know about the first part of the introduction, like all these adjectives and verbs to that. But at least the second part, factual things, I can like confirm, yes. But first of all, thanks a lot for inviting me, and like great meeting you. And it's a great honor to be in a conversation with you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Means a lot. I went through your LinkedIn profile, and it like has a very solid background about consulting, then jumping into private equity. So I saw that you started your work experience at BCG, then you went to like different PE funds as well, like Apollo, Advent, and finally you're at Bain Cap. If you can just give a short introduction about you in terms of what have you done, and if people will get to know you, and then we'll take the further questions ahead.
Okay. So maybe like if you get to know, I would start a little earlier than my consulting life. Maybe like starting from my life from a small town. So I'm born, brought up, did my entire education, including CA in Salem. So most likely stick to like one school, like one home, didn't want to travel a lot, more like a lazy person than like that's also defines the lifestyle in Salem. We are like more chill, relaxed people. Did that, and somewhere in my 7th or 8th, I got introduced to this concept of CA, because when you're in a small town, you are restricted to options, which is either you be a doctor or be an engineer. And if someone is taking a commerce group, they will be considered like, okay, this person doesn't know anything else, or like this person is considered to be someone who is not so proficient in studies. So maybe like he's just taking it as a backup to clear his junior college or something like that. And interestingly, Salem belt, there is a bunch of towns called like Namakkal and Karur, these sites, where the district toppers, or not district, the state toppers are like generally produced in these schools. And there are a bunch of schools who doesn't even have a group called a commerce group. For them, it is all about science and maths and computer science, like that's it. So that's a kind of like thinking which people generally had. And if you go and tell people like, oh, I want to take commerce group, they'll be like, okay, what are you blabbering? That's how it started. But interestingly, fortunately that I had a guidance from a couple of my distant cousins. One is a chartered accountant, my dad's uncle's daughter, like my dad's niece, and other is my dad's nephew. So he is a cost and management accountant. So somewhere when I was in my 7th or 8th standard, they gave me a quick introduction about what they are doing, and I was like, okay, I have no idea what it is, because all we are told is like, oh, in school if someone asks you what do you want to become, like doctor, teacher, policeman, like people just know what they can see, like not the most of other stuff. So for a 7th standard child, it was kind of like, okay, let me get to understand it a bit more, etc. But couple of things that stood out in this particular profession for me. One, I don't have to ever go to a college, and fortunately or unfortunately, till date I've never stepped into a college for like a classroom education. So it's like 12th and then directly into CA. But before jumping to that, so the point of having an education where you don't have to step out of your hometown, don't have to step out of your comfort zone. There is no concept of cut-off marks to get into a college, no like ranking like a JE kind of like an entrance with like some 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 50 lakh people jumping onto it. All these things were like kind of enthusiastic, no particular requirement that I need to be having such attendance, etc. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. And the second thing that stood out is being a person from a family where I've seen both my parents have been the breadwinner, and both of them have been like taking care of us really well. I found it very interesting where a course offers you an option to either go for an employment or set up your own profession where you have a flexible hour, and that is, you can do just because you have a knowledge and a certificate, not with the fact that like you have to put a lot of investment to be your own boss. And I found it very interesting because being from a small town where you have seen this is not a place where it's not like your Pune belt or like Chennai OMR belt. You see like so many IT professionals, so many people who are like jumping to go to a job. It's a small town. There is a lot of people who are doing reasonably small MSME kind of businesses. It's known for its textile, aluminium, jewelry work, etc. I'm like, oh, now I can start my own business equivalent or a profession, have a flexible hour without putting investment. That sounds really fascinating. So that's how the interest all like started picking up. Then I started reaching out to more people, understand a bit more about the course, and that's all this journey went. So the good thing is that like yeah, like today looking back, connecting the dots, life is really good. But the moment I knew that oh, I want to do this, I decided to do this. My focus on science have like just dropped, and for example, if someone says like, oh, the guy is like all India rank one in one of the course which is considered to be like relatively tougher or difficult to clear, and it is not that one time I did. It was in CA, it was in CS, even CS final I would rank and all this thing. If someone actually like, turn back the pages and look at my like school life, it'll be funny. Was it like very like a school? Sorry, national topper in school? No. Very like a state topper? No. District topper? No. Very at least a school topper? No. So that was a point where I'm like, oh, for me, all the school marks is no longer relevant. So let me have fun. There is no cutoff mark. There is no worry. So my tenure from 8th to 12th was like super, super fun. Not even like forget about topper. If I look back in my 10th score, I was not even the top 5 in school. So which is like in a school of like 150 people, you're not even top 5. And like 5 years down the line, you are like a national topper in like a course which is rarely taken. So it was very different experience, but I think if I have to look back, it's all because I was mentally more tuned to say, oh, this is what I want to do in life. Everything else is like kind of a checkbox. Clearing 10th checkbox, clearing 12th checkbox. Have fun as much as you want. But when you come to CA, the life completely changed. It was more focused. So interestingly, both these distant cousins, whom I was referring to, both of them are not my first cousin. They are kind of little like my dad's first cousin or second cousin's children. So there is no immediate relative in my family who will be spending time to give me like a lot of gyan on how to clear CA, how to get rank. So when I was entering into CA, I was like, oh, last 4 years I had enough fun. Now there is no turning back. You have 3 months. Get your score sheet together and get your score done for your CPT, which is the entrance exam. Today it's called Foundation. So that time, like I was like working my ass off. Like there is no turning back. Like literally, I was like kind of a donkey. Like morning, evening, study, 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 and I scored 180. And it
Wow.
was like ruthlessly, like 180 out of 200. It was ruthlessly just studying.
You would have gotten a rank there, right?
No, I didn't get a rank. So it was kind of like an interesting progression where I knew that I had it in me. I knew that if I put right effort, it was there. And I'm not going to say like it was a completely turnaround story. Till 10th, I was like kind of a dumb student. I'm like, I believe, like thanks to the God, I believe like I was smart. Like when you are a child, like in many schools, they have this today, like for a LKG student, they have graduation ceremony. Not that far, but at least in schools, they give you this small, like if you're a rank holder, they give you like some stickers or they give you some pins to hold and all this thing. I was like, oh, that sounds very fascinating and interesting when you're a child. When teenage hits, the life priority changes. It's no longer about getting rank, but more about having fun and all this thing. So for me, it was more about bringing back the discipline which I had when I was like a very young kid to like start working more towards my subjects. And yeah, for example, like how you started your book, like mom and dad praise to you. Without you guys, like it's not possible. And I should like start with the real same connotation. Like it's my parents who actually helped me to come up here. Where my dad, he was very clear that if you want to do CA, forget about your plus one, plus two. You will clear it, I know, but let's get you CA books. So we started preparing for CA since when I was in the late stage of my 11th. My mom was ensuring that, okay, your school marks are all fine, but if you're deciding to do CA, let's start putting in multiple courses. Like there are Hindi exams because you're from South. Hindi is not your natural language. There are exams which runs for 4 years, Sanskrit exams. Then there are exams for like typewriting, short, and there is an accountancy exam, a lot of things. So I was occupied all along just to like keep myself busy, and all those helped me to actually put more hard work, more effort. So for me to study from 7 a.m. till like say 4 p.m., 5 p.m. was not something new. And the best part is like I never stepped into a college, never had this opportunity to say like, oh, we have to organize events, do this, do that. There is a lot of fun time. You see your neighbor or like your classmates actually having fun. For me, like I'm like studying like a donkey. My like classmate is studying like a donkey square. So that's how like the entire pool is. So it was kind of like a full of raw hard work. But then when I got this 180 score, the interesting thing that happened is then I started asking myself like, okay, for the course where people were saying that it was tough to clear, and my aim was to get 100, but I didn't know whether my studies are good enough for me to even get 100 because of all the negativity around you. So much work like such that I was able to score 180. What if I start strategizing it? So the next question I asked myself and like the peers around me, because when you get 180, that is kind of the first in like Salem, the entire Salem. They're like, okay, who is this guy? Now you are like someone who's known to the town. It's a smaller town. There are only 300, 400 CAs in the town. So like they start realizing like there is a guy with some potential, like someone is like getting some marks here.
Where exactly is this, Salem?
So it's 5 hours from Chennai, 3 hours, 3.5 hours from Bangalore.
Got it.
It's in the like little northern part of Tamil Nadu.
Got it.
So once you start getting such notice, then they'll also start guiding you. And I was fortunate enough to be part of the tier 2 where you get a lot of guidance, like free advices, and also like a mindset to actually like absorb them. So then they were telling like, if you are able to get this, why don't you aim for a rank? So that's when the journey for like aiming for a rank started. So IPCC aimed for a rank, got rank 7 in CA Inter or IPCC. So then my senior, like who was also my faculty, he told like, why don't you go for a big 4 or something? I decided not to go because my dad had some ailment. He was just recovering from TB, and I was not in a mood to like leave him, and he just took his retirement or VRS. And my mom was a single breadwinner of the family at that point, and she was working some 3 years away from family. Like for 7 years she was away from family, coming only on the weekends because she was kind of the breadwinner of the family and she has to handle it. So with all this going along, I don't want to go and sit in Chennai. My mom living in a place 3 hours from Salem. My dad is living in Salem, because we can't just suddenly afford to like go and take a bigger place in rent for like my dad and me to like live there, etc. So that as a background, we decided like we are not moving anywhere away from Salem. Because of the financial reason, I decided I don't want to go to college also. No donation, no tuition fee, all these things. It's like a very simple thing, like in CA course. So we started with that background, and I told my faculty that, see, you have a practice here. So if you think that I have potential and you think like you can groom me and I have a huge respect for you, why don't I join your firm? So that's where I did my articleship for 3 years. When I joined, he told like, see, you are going to be in articleship for 3 years and then you have to give your finals. If you are going to be fully working, you are never gonna be able to come back to the mindset of studying or having this grit of reading, the habit of reading, etc. So to just build that habit, why don't you take up one more course? Because you decided not to go for a like college. I know like I'm going on a monologue, but just giving some background. But that sounded more interesting, so that's how I started doing more ACS. So directly they gave an option saying if you are already done through your CA Inter, like you can do like your CS Inter directly. I'm like, okay, why not? So then he asked me like, okay, you got rank 7 in CA Inter, what can you do more here? Okay, let me try for rank 1. So no classes, nothing. Like with all the lack of humility, I can say like I didn't go to class and like got it. And interestingly, my batch was the new syllabus for CS, and in the new syllabus there were only 2 people cleared. One was me and one was someone else, and both of us got rank, obviously. But the point is like that is how the syllabus was. But
how many people would have applied?
Good question. Like I don't know the answer. Okay. So this is like this advertisement where like a guy comes and say like, mom is making a rasagulla. They ask like, okay, what is your like place? I'm like 2nd place. How many people ran? Like only 2 people. Might be the case. I don't know. But as I know that like marks were decent enough for me to don't look back, and my CPD was there to prove people that okay, this guy can do it. It's not completely off the grid. So it was good. So got that, and then there is no turning back. If you are able to get like rank 1, and now my entire town knows me, like the professionals in CA and CS knows me, like it's a small set of 500-600 people. They're like, okay, this guy is going to do something for Salem, like some merit for Salem, let's do this. In the meantime, given I was not in college and my faculty, like my whole town, they were encouraging me to do something more, like how will you build leadership skill and all this thing. Because interestingly, after I completed my inter and you got rank, you will be called into like actually address few students, give some experience sharing and all this thing. And I went there. I was in the stage for like exactly 45 seconds, saying that one of the key driver for you is fear, because fear of failure is really important for you to have this fire going in. Because if someone can take like, it's not like you shouldn't fail, but like you should have a fear that what will happen if you fail, which will help you to motivate. If you fail, you just like pick up yourself and like run again. But that's all I told, and I came back. And then people who knew me, my good friends and all these people, all good orators, they went and they spoke for 15 minutes about me and all this thing. So it was a really bad situation, like where I realized that, okay, it's not just good to be good in academics, you have to like build a holistic skill. So then I requested my senior, he's like, okay, why don't you go and join the students committee of Salem? Like I was there as a member for a year, became a secretary for the next year. And during my tenure, along with the chairman's support, we bagged the first ever Best Branch Award for students in Salem.
Okay.
Like in the history of Salem,
Very
which was
nice.
like some 20, 30 years. And it was quite of interesting. During that period, I myself would have presented 4 to 5 papers, including a regional conference in front of 600 students. And then we organized some 100 plus events. There will be at least 2 events a week. And that was ensured. You build leadership skills, you build communicating skills. You saw that, oh, I am like this, and I know there is a bunch of friends who are on a similar level. Like
What kind of events would these be? I mean, 2 events a week is too much.
So these
what
events
can
are more like you as an organized committee, all you have to do is like just be there and ensure it is done. And it's a committee of 15, 20 people.
Yeah.
So not everyone need to be present on everything. But we split the workload among us, and then we just need to ask for volunteers who may be students or like students from different streams or sometimes faculties to come and speak about their experience. Like, for example, someone did something different in their articleship in income from house property, like kind of something considered to be like very basic. But they would have seen like, oh, there is a very differentiated, there is a HUF which had a house property, which got exited, but there was some convolution in their construction time, loan period, etc., how they solved it. So they'll come and share their experience or learning on how they actually accounted for it, like how do they handle the tax tribunal, etc. Similarly, just basics about that time, it was like where the bitcoins, etc., were just budding up, or someone will come and speak about it. It's more about a forum for the students, by the students, of the students. You just come, speak something, come prepared, not like you speak whatever you have in your mind. It has to be informative. The audience can be sometimes just 10 people, sometimes it may be 50 people, sometimes maybe 300 people, depending on the requirement of the event or this kind of the speaker or the topic on the season. Like if in an audit season, obviously there are a lot of students will come and there will be like a lot of audit related points. So it's more about ensuring that there is enough and more events being organized such that the volunteers are not repeated. If you have done like a small 10 people kind of a forum, there are 3-4 different types of forums. Then if you have done it well, you'll be like upgraded to the next forum. If you have not done it well, you'll be given a chance again to do the same 10 people kind of a forum. Then if you have done it well, then you can apply for or to be a volunteer in the next set of forum where there will be like 40-50 people can be your audience. So that way it kept upgraded. There was a grid on how to like select someone, how to do this. So it was kind of, to be honest, I started more as a personal agenda because I need a forum to speak, and I can't just look around to say people like, okay, but I'm lacking forums. If someone has organizers, I can go and speak. Rather, everyone is my friends. I just like ask them. I ask my chairman. They're like, okay, let's do. If we're aiming for it, let's aim for it. There is nothing about till last year we were doing very limited events. Like, there's a fund requirement, etc. All I need is like bring in people, give them a samosa, and like just make them sit for an hour, and bring in a speaker who's happy to get a forum rather than like about the gifts. So you're in a good position. I'm like, all you need is like a place and a fan and lights. I can give you that. I'm like, oh, this is the kind of support I'm looking for. So we started that. For a year we did it. So that year we got like a best branch. We had a booklet of some 200-250 pages with photos and details of the events we did, and we sent it for the approval, and we got the best branch award.
Wow.
So beyond academics, that things helped. Beyond like being in that forum helped me to keep preparing on new topics, helped me to keep preparing on the navigating with students, understand what is happening, helped me to also become a faculty or teacher for like a bunch of students there, because I was already ranker.
Which subject did you teach?
So I love costing, and it also is reflective. Like in general, like you're a like a good ranker, you are like supposed to be a jack of all trades there. But like, my favorite subject was costing, and I found it very interesting. I used to teach that to students, like accounts sometimes, etc. So it was all going on, and then like comes the final exam. So May 16 was my final attempt, and November 15 or October 15, sometime around that, my dad took a chart and he wrote like CA Sriram All India Rank 1 May 2016, like some 8 months before this. So half the time when you see like if you have a relative or someone or like many friends of mine who is going to appear for the exam won't even reveal that they're appearing for the exam because of all the negativity thrown around you. And I have like a big poster in my room. Anyone and everyone coming to my home will be like seeing that. And like a friend once like took a picture of it when it was done, posted it in the friends group and all this thing. And I'm like, yeah, but there's no turning back now because that is true. Because tomorrow, like your bar saying like, oh, I'm writing CA and now clearing and not clearing is one. Even if you get rank 2, you'll be questioned like, look at this guy. He was doing all like big words of getting rank 1 and now got rank 2. So the question is like your bar is completely changed, but that also helped me actually like the fear of failure, which I still believe is something important for you to be driven.
You
and that
think we should have fear of failure, is it?
I agree with that.
Why so?
So you always need positive motivation. You can keep sitting and clapping someone because many people, the adrenaline rush comes saying they're like, oh, like it's good, like people are applauding for me, all this thing. That all comes from for someone who's like naturally built that way, which is like 1 in a million. For rest of us, half the time the motivation to do some things, including parents, including studies, including anything, is like Samaj kya bolega more. And if you're saying like, oh, I'm not like worried about society and all this thing, like we are kidding ourselves. Like may it be including the fact that like how you keep your house, may it be including the fact like how you dress, like which college or school like your children are studying, what do you do? Always there is a thinking of like Samaj kya bolega thing. So you always try to position yourself as someone who is successful in front of others' eyes. So that's what I believe is to be like a fear of failure. Because if I do an action and I don't achieve it, then there is a point where people will think a bit low of me. Which actually helped me to decide like, okay, I don't want that to happen. I wish I do the same level of expectation for my health and like my fat burning and stuff, but at least here the like society standard on like fat is not that bad, so it's good. It's maybe influencer standard is bad, but society standard is still okay. So still living with that. But the question is, like at the age of 18, 19, like considered someone who's failed in something, who has never seen a failure because our bar for failure is very high in that age, is very different and very difficult. So for me, that actually boosted me. I'm not saying, so it's not about like, oh, have a fear, because if your fear overtakes you, that's an issue.
Yeah,
But
that's
I'm
where I
just
was
saying,
going to come from.
have a fear, but not on the outcome, but just saying that like, what if my outcome goes wrong? And based on that, you just decide like, what will it take for you to not let it go wrong? So for me, that works really well. Which is to say, for example, recently I was reading a article in which the Dunzo founder says like, how do you take decision? He says it's 1 door or 2 door.
Who says? Sorry.
Dunzo founder.
Okay.
So like when someone asked him, like I think Ken article when they were writing it, they asked him like, how do you decide something in your life, a decision? He says it's like a 1 door or 2 door. People ask like, what is 1 door or 2 door? Like 1 door is where you take a decision, you go through the door, it's a one way. It's really costly, both from time, cost, like respect perspective to come back. But there are, which is like very small portion of your life. Like larger portion of life, it's like you go, it's a two-way door. Maybe you lose some small amount of time and like cost. In a bigger picture, it's like immaterial. But those are the kind of decisions I take where if it's a 2 door, I'll be happy to step in as long as it's material. If it is 1 door, then I'll be really conscious because it can make or break you. For me, for example, named as a failure was a 1-way door. I never want to be named as a failure. Like it's kind of a insecure overachiever in the family circle where you've already shown your ranks and merits and all this thing. Now suddenly going and say like, so this guy got his rank in Inter or something by fluke, man. Like because he couldn't even clear his final. That's never like a reason, because till you success, all people care about is like, oh, success, all the failures you've seen in the past and all this thing. But once you have succeeded, like then they always want to keep only a success in front of it. They can't appreciate like you failed after that. You're like, you can be Sachin Tendulkar, but you can't hit century in every match. In some matches, you'll get duck out also. It can be like even a World Cup kind of a match. You can get like score in like single digit. You can get nervous 90s. You can be Sachin, but still that's where you are.
Yeah.
People can like get furious. People can do like, sitting here in the watching it in the TV. I can say like, yeah, he should have played that ball very differently, which is very easy for me to do from here. But unfortunately, that's what the society does. For me, I don't want to be like this laughing stock in front of them to like do that. So that way, for me, fear of failure helps.
Got it. No, makes
Till
sense.
date.
Yeah, makes sense. I just like what I was trying to say was like, for example, when I had this fear of failure, right, when I was giving all these exams or doing some or the other things, that always used to bother me. I think like it used to haunt me, or it used to feel as if, okay, if I am thinking what the relatives are going to say, or if I fail and all, of course, like it matters at the end of the day. But all in all, what I was trying to do was just give my best, irrespective of what is going to happen, and then just try to ensure that the fear is not there. As you said, right, like the fear should not be there on the outcome, but it should be there where you are just fearful, what if it does not happen, what is going to happen next. So that is something which I agree with. But the only thing is that when I had that fear of failure, right, like it used to bother me and it used to give me a lot of negativity in my mind. Like I used to think a lot of random things, random shit, which I mean, I don't even know if it's going to happen or not, like any random thing, because of fear of failure. So that's why I was like, let it be, just I'll just give my best, let's just avoid this fear of failure, which is very difficult to do that. But that was my thought process when I was giving my examinations and all.
Yeah, only nuance is like whether you like it or not, the fear of failure will be there.
Yeah,
It's very easy to sit and tell that like, you should not have fear and all this thing. I'm just saying I'll embrace my fear rather than trying to avoid it.
Correct.
And the best way is to just like you embrace your fear well in advance.
Yeah.
Because none of this is like tomorrow what will I do?
Correct.
It's not an adventure junkie kind of a mode. I want to do a skydiving and I'm capturing my fear of failure. That's not the point.
Yeah.
The question is, I know like I have an exam 1 year away. All I need to do is like, if something goes bad, what will happen? I know the result today. Sorry, I don't know the outcome today, but I know the outcome. What if the outcome is negative? Which is like humiliation, waste of 6 months in life, etc., etc. So the way to overcome fear is by being disciplined and being planned.
Correct.
So the question is, someone who's like saying, "Oh, I will conquer my fear of failure." At least I wished I tried to do that. At least in most part of life, like which I consider material. The best way for me is like plan well in advance and be disciplined about it. If I say like I will study for like 12 hours, 14 hours this week, it may not be Monday, it may not be Tuesday, but by Sunday I need to have the 14 hours on my plate.
Right.
If I don't have it, there is no sleep, there is no fun time, there is no entertainment time. So the best part is there is always positive, like a stick and carrot around it. For me, when I was a student, like even now, preferably when I'm not in a deal time, Sunday is more like a family, friends time. When I was a student, every Sunday between 3 to 10, I was unreachable. I was with my friends.
Whoa.
Every Sunday, except for the 1 month before exam.
Okay.
And if I don't get my 14 hours done, it's going to eat in my time with my friends, eat in my time and I'm going to have entertainment, eat in my movies time, eat in my badminton time. So I don't want it to eat into those time. For me, the hierarchy wise, like the studies comes first then.
Correct.
And then comes like all these other things, which is all part of my life. But if I don't do this, mentally, like me and my dad will ensure like we have a checklist, we have a calendar. My dad note down the hours I sat and studied and I was truthful. I was not lying to him at least. I told him like today I studied 1.5 hours. Then he will take like on Friday evening we'll take a stock of it. Then he'll say, we have this many hours to cover. We have a cricket match or like a badminton match tomorrow morning. We have two options. You have to go and come back and study, or you have to study tonight and go there. But somewhat we have to complete the studies. That is like non-starter to say like, oh, I will move it next week. No, you may be in marriage, but still no. So that discipline along with the plan helps. Planning, easier job. You can do it. You can take something from Google. You can do all this thing. But discipline is really tough. I think that is the right way for me mentally, or till date what worked for me to overcome the fear of failure. But saying that like I won't get fear of failure or I should avoid fear of failure is not happening.
Correct.
So everyone is human. We are not robots. If you are taking something really material or meaningful in your life, there will be a fear. Like for someone who is just driving a car on the road, he's not getting into the car every day thinking like, what if I get into an accident today? Because there's nothing material about it. You're just going from point A to point B. But if you are like an F1 racer, if like Shoemaker has to enter into the car, every match he has to worry about like what if my car breaks down, what if this thing, he has to avoid. He can't just say like I'll go on 220 like every time and like come what if the brakes fail, like I don't care. That's not how it is. He plans well in advance. His team plan in well in advance. They know the track as the back of their hand. They do all that, and still they'll try to say like within this how will I strategize, and then they'll build the discipline.
Correct. Makes sense.
So
What change was there in you as a person when, let's say, you were giving your exams in your 8th, 9th, when you were not even, let's say you told that you didn't come in the top 5 in the school, but in an examination like a CA or a CS, which is considered as one of the most difficult examinations, you stood all India rank 1, like you stood first out of, let's say, 50,000 students, whoever wrote the examination. So what change do you think was there, or how was this entire transformation? What worked well for you in CA, which you think कि अरे यार 8th 9th में ये काम नहीं किया, or what happened? Like how did this change happen?
see, the only pivot I would say is more from the discipline and focus perspective, because
That
as
was
I
less during 8th 9th standard.
Yeah, as I was telling that, I'm not saying suddenly I become super smart, suddenly
Yeah.
like something changed in life, like oh Saraswati Devi ने आके like मुझे बोला कि like आज से तू like ठीक है like scholar हो.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. But the reality is that the like when I was in the teenage, when I was having fun and my school life, etc., I knew that like this is not something important for me. And the only good thing is like I had that clarity that I don't care about the marks much. Still decent enough to clear. I don't have to worry about it. There are a number of days I bunked the college and all this thing. I know it's not the best thing to tell in a podcast when people are looking like I'm looking for tips to like clear, not to bunk the class. But everyone is human, boss.
Yeah.
Like people had their own naughty life, had their own mischievous life, had their own like ups and downs in the part. But the good thing that happened is that at least I am still close to my parents, but I was more open to my parents when I was studying, saying that say I have like a huge target to complete. It's like a big leap, and it's not something I can achieve as like an individual. I needed to do as a family. So my dad decided like, see, anyway, I am also not feeling well, and my job. So maybe like I'll take a VRS. Let's just focus more time on your studies.
Is he also CA?
No, he was a mechanic in like Tamil Nadu State Transport, which is similar to the Bombay State Transport BST equivalent. He was a mechanic. He was in a really tiring job, like 8-9 hours of handling machines, heavy weights and stuff. So he's like, dude, I'm 55. I'm like done. I'm like, yeah, best time. And my mom is like already, as I was telling, she was away from home for 7 years around the same time. She's like, fine, like now we are in this pivotal stage of the family where Sriram has to come up in his life. The next 4 years is like really, really crucial. It's not like my dad is going to sit and teach me accounts and commerce. That's not his forte at all. But my mom decided like, but he needs a moral support. Someone has to like be there to ensure that he's sitting and studying. He's 16. He's like in peak of his teenage. For the next 3 years, he's in his teenage, and this is a time where people get multiple focus, multiple priorities in life. Like with all this thing, we sat as a family and we took a decision saying that okay, mom will be the sole breadwinner of the family at the cost of not staying with the family, because to continue to be in the job and stuff, she has to be away from home. Dad will ensure that his focus is fully on me. We all decided that that was the time when the touch phone and all these things are coming up, like no social network, no touch phone, nothing. So like till I cleared CA, like that I was given like the candy bar phone just to ensure I'm contactable. And like we were very, very clear, like none of the one in the family had it. Affordability, yes, a question, but like a phone is not that a premium to just say like this initial 3,000 is gonna put a bit dent. Like, and then still today, like tier 2, like the big concept is the China phone, which has all the facility for the same cost. But the point is, it was more like a family decision and discipline, and then we adhered to it. We decided like, okay, now the focus is very clear. None of us know how C is. That's why CPT scored a great mark. If I was little more strategic, little more guidance, I could have scored a rank. At least I believe to say.
How many marks?
5 marks difference.
Okay.
Like 10th rank was 185 or 187 or something like that. So could have been there, but unfortunately couldn't. But the question is, it showed that you still have the capability.
Yeah.
So we ensured like we have a timeline, and that 4 years, like I think my dad still has those calendars and the chart. Interestingly, the chart will have like as if you're writing some the Dobika account or like the milk account. He has a count of hours I studied. So we have a tally every week, every month. This month you are supposed to study like 80 hours. And it sounds so high, like 80 hours in a month. But interestingly, if you have 30 days in a month, if you do like just 2.5 hours a day, you are already like 75 hours. And 2.5 hours in a day is not that big a mammoth stack thing, like especially if you have a Sunday which is completely clean and a Saturday which has like half clean and stuff. I'm like, yeah, if I look back, it sounds very simple, but the question is the discipline. I think the most easy relatable stuff is like if people who just pay donation to all the gyms in first week of January and then like decide not to go, including me for this year. Because you paid for it, there is an AC room which is waiting for you where you can go, no one is going to stop you. But you don't enter that, not because like it's not important in your life, not because that it is costly, not because like suddenly life has different priorities, just because of a sheer discipline question. Hitting 1 hour in a gym sounds so easy for someone who's like disciplined, but very difficult for someone who's not. At a peak of like teenage, it's not easy. So that time the family came in support. They told like, okay, we'll support you. We watched TV with like zero, it's a muted TV, no audio, nothing. Like we'll sit and study morning 2 hours, evening 2 hours, then you go have fun in your office, have fun in the Sikasa committee and all this thing. But that discipline changed.
Correct.
Like focus become more ruthless.
How do you become more disciplined, or maybe for ones who are watching this video, what advice would you have for them in terms of helping them understand how can they also become more disciplined?
So I think it's partly covered in our discussion, but the only thing is, if someone is watching the video, especially from the point of view of CA, and most likely you will be in your teenage again, we believe like at the teenage we'll be like Apuni Bhagwana kind of like a mode. We believe that like we know stuff. We may or we may not. Like that was also an era when technology was taking a shift. Like anything and everything, parents ask like, no, what are you seeing in the phone? But I'm studying only. So the only real question is like, who are we cheating by doing all this? I'm not saying everyone is, like there are many people who put more effort than me, unfortunately couldn't clear because of the fact like whatever they went through in their childhood, like the educational this thing, someone need to put same amount of effort or someone need to put more effort. Today for example, someone asked me like, can I just go and play cricket? I'm zero in cricket. So something like say you are like an under 14 team champion or team captain in your school.
How do you know this?
I read your book.
The first 10 pages you said.
So if you are like under 14 team, like if I'm going to play with you, it will take me years to come to even to that level for you to, but if you start practicing, so if you start practicing 1 hour a day, to come to your level 5 years from now, I should start practicing 4-5 hours a day. So the question is sometime it's not just about, I also studied 2 hours, but I couldn't get that time. People need to, so I would say 3 things. And it's something like which one of the faculty told us, it's like 3 I's. Interest plus involvement is equal to the improvement.
Yeah.
So first you should have interest. I know very clearly like I need to do CA because my family situation is that I can't have have it as a choice key. Oh, what if I don't clear in this attempt? Let me try the next one. I'm like, yeah, nothing happening. 6 months is too costly for me. I need to get it done. Like one of my parents has taken VRS because he's not feeling well. My other mom is going through a lot of stress in like a job, living away with them. I'm like, get done as soon as possible, give them some like time and like we'll figure out later. So the day I came out of my exam, not the day of result from my final, we told my mom ki like put paper, I'm confident that it'll clear. Wow. Rank to aayega nahi aayega, like we'll figure out. But clearing CA is done. Like you don't have to worry about it. Worst case, I'll get result in a month and a half. You have 3 months of waiting period, cooling period in your VRS. Worst case, if it doesn't happen, we can go and withdraw our VRS. Don't worry about it, but put it today. I'm confident on the day, the 8th day when I completed my paper, that was a discussion. So I was more worried about the family situation, health and all this thing. And on top of that, for me, the interest in like the course was also high because I was very clear that I have a number in mind or like I have a lifestyle in mind, what I want to be 15 years from now, 20 years from now kind of a thing. CA gives me that opportunity. So I shouldn't take it lightly. So my interest on the particular topic keeps going up. Every time I look at like, what if I don't clear? That's a fear of failure if I keep speaking about. Every time I keep thinking about it, my fear goes up. And the good part is that ensure that I'm motivated to increase my interest because there is no way I should fail. If I fail, like then there is a big doom that is waiting. It may be for 6 months, maybe a short tenure, but still that is not something I'm signing up for. So that helped me to ensure I have an interest. Then comes the involvement, which includes the planning, strategizing, discipline to ensure that it is getting executed. So this all comes with the involvement part of it. If you are really involved in this, it's like, oh, we can keep saying Michael Phelps is one of the great guy, won the maximum goals in Olympics or one of the person who to do that, etc. There was a book or something I read where he said, like that was what we see once in 4 years, but in the remaining, in between 2 Olympics, he practices for every day or 6 days a week for more than 12 to 14 hours in the pool. So the question is, it's not like just because he got gold in the previous Olympics, he's chilling. like, oh, now I proved myself, I don't have to work hard. His involvement and the grit is visible there. So that if we can build, and how to build it is like being truthful to yourself. Like find your real well-wisher. You can't, so the order of hierarchy of real well-wisher, even above you, it's your parents. The only reason is they have seen the life for a much longer time and they have seen the pros and cons of different action. We have seen only part of it. And then comes you, then comes your like family, friends, whomsoever it is. Some may look like they are well-wishers, but some may be actually a snake. You don't know. But on the hierarchy of the top three people decide that, oh, this is the thing that I am focused in my life. Then if it is a joint decision and if each obey each other, it's not like I'm saying, oh, your parents should obey you. It's like your parents should you should obey your parents. Even your parents should obey you. It's not like you want to achieve something CA and the parent is sitting in like the hall and watching a serial like from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. There's no way you are also going to get there. So those 3-4 years of discipline is something like an ecosystem that is built, not just for one person, and that actually helps.
Yeah.
If you are doing something alone, you need a really, really, really high motivation level to get there. You should be like kind of like Gandhiji level of guy who's like, I want to go for a Dandi March, whether people come or not, I'll go. I want to go for Satyagraha, whether people come or not, I'll go.
Yeah.
Unless you are like that level of motivation, you are going to be like a sheep or herd mentality. And you don't need a bigger herd for that. A smaller herd, which can be your family, can get you there. But a joint ownership, joint motivation, joint discipline, that helps you to get it much more faster versus like you trying to do it alone.
Right. Makes sense. I think that's very relatable. After your CA results were out, then you got your All India Rank 1, and of course, like that would have been a moment where you would have like celebrated a lot, and there would have been banners, hoardings, media news, and all during that week for All India Rank 1. So, firstly, I wanted to ask how was that entire experience, and secondly, then what did you decide after getting your All India Rank 1? Ki kya karna hai? What next now? Like your dad had put the VRS, your mom, you asked your mom to put the VRS as well. So, what next?
So those 2 to 3 days after the rank was kind of cloud nine, flying kind of a mode. So interestingly, the day before my result, I was in a small hill station called Erkard because for me it was like
Which station?
Erkard.
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 Where is this?
So it's kind of like this third peak in Tamil Nadu, like kind of Ooty, Kodaikanal kind of thing. Third is Erkard, and that is in Salem. So it's 1 hour drive from home. So it's like a go-to place whenever you are like free kind of a thing. So July 18th was my result if I'm not wrong. July 17th I was in Erkard. July 16th I was helping the current students committee to organize a regional conference for 800 students. The only way for me to not think about results was to keep myself busy.
Yeah.
So we were doing all this. My mom was like, dude, your results are going to come out. Like, should I come or not? I'm like, no, don't add more pressure. It's not like I can do anything about it, but let's figure it out. And my dad started getting fever. So it was a very weird situation. I am like, okay, come what me, let me go to office. The result is good or bad, I'll see from there. Like, I'm not going to sit around like everyone looking like a hawk. Like, when is the result going to open? I want to keep myself busy. So I went to office. I got called from the CA president and he called and told that like, dude, you got rank 1, congratulations and stuff.
Who was the president at your time?
I think it was Devaraj Reddy, if I'm not wrong. Like, sorry.
2016, right? Okay.
Maybe I'm really sorry.
I think Nilesh Vikamsi sir was also there, right?
He was a
in
vice president then.
Oh,
he became
okay,
president the next
okay,
time.
Okay, got it.
So then the result came. It was a weird situation in office. Unfortunately, one of my colleague couldn't clear. So the office was like, bad, there is a guy who's rank 1 and the other one is like, so even though like everyone there want to congratulate, we were like, okay, let's keep silent. We'll not like add
No,
more
I
stuff.
mean it's fine, right? I mean it happens.
It's fine. Like one is crying there, you can't just like, and also like I had to rush back to my dad because he's alone in home with the great news, no one to share because my mom is some 3 hours away and all this thing. And then that was the first time I had a driver for my two-wheeler. So it was like I had my bike, I came to office in my bike and I had to go back. And my senior is like, dude, you will be like in your cloud 9, you're like super high adrenaline rush, so you can't drive. So it's like as big as like alcohol, you're not driving and you'll be getting a lot of calls. So he just sent another article with me who was driving me home. And we went home and already I called my mom and dad. So they were already happy. I was entering, my dad was already crying and it was nice. And after I entered, like within 5-10 minutes, the news guys have started coming in. And we told my mom, she asked her boss for permission to leave saying that like I'm leaving now because my son got all India rank 1. There are newspaper folks sitting in my house and I have to leave, and she's 3.5 hours away.
Yeah.
So these guys came around, like result came around 12:1. I came home at 2, and these newspaper guys started coming around 3-4. We made them wait for 3 hours. My mom came home at like 6-6:30. We are like, we are not giving any news or any interview or come what may till my mom is here.
Wow,
like,
so
that was the
sweet.
reason.
Yeah.
And then my mom came, like at evening, all these great tamashas were happening. It was fun. Those 2-3 days, like some 200-300 calls, stranger, known people, come what may, left, right and center. And I think that's around the time when the institute started publishing the rank holder's name in the rank. And I think they then discontinued also. I think I was fortunate to be in that batch. The number came, so come, like someone random will come and like start calling and like congratulating. I'm like, okay, sounds good, amazing.
Yeah.
So that 2-3 days was
Your
really
number is
amazing.
still public, is it?
Yeah, my number is still public. If you
people
go and
get
search for
fined.
May 16, see all in the rank one, like still once in 3-4 months, someone will call like, but yeah, like you are like, I'm like, yeah, but I'll
People
just
still call you.
yeah, and
Oh
like,
my
yeah, let us just
God.
appreciate that like you are on a working day. Let's talk on a weekend. And honestly, I tell people that like I'll give you a time on a weekend. I'll give them a time. 50% will call me back, 50% won't. That shows the amount of interest and involvement in that.
Yeah.
And the one who calls, I'll do like some half an hour, 45 minutes call
Wow.
with them. Like good for like young folks, and now they have like much more opportunity and this thing. But interesting, but as all this thing happened, and that time my biggest ambition is like put up my own office in Salem. Living in Salem, maybe like make some 5-6 lakhs a year, which is a big money. It's a big money.
5-6 lakhs a year.
Year.
Okay.
Like that's my both parents.
And now
put
this
together.
guy, we're not even
We're
sure.
not even, like,
the
disclosing numbers.
Yeah, but of course in crores, because everyone knows private equity में क्या salary होता है.
Like once again, like I'm not commenting on any of that. But the question is, my ambition like was to get some 5-6 lakhs of salary, or like this thing for professional fees. Plus have like my own chart center right like next to the place, because we love food. Me and my friends will open this chart center, morning in office, evening in chart center. Who thinks about marriage and all this thing when you're 19-20? It's like, oh, ye kafi hai. Like you have the practice, you have like your chart center will go on and stuff. Then I went and met my uncle who was giving me guidance, who was also a well-wisher. He's like, dude, have you gone mad? He's like, no, but I was telling him that I wanted to be in this because I've seen both my parents working, spending a lot of time outside home. I didn't want to do that and all this. He's like, okay, why don't you give it a try? You are like 20. Why don't you just like go try for a couple of years? If you don't like the job, then like come back. No one is going to tell you like when you have to start your profession. But 2 years later, if you want to go and try a job, they are not going to be open for you. So then like all this like hunt started. The one lucky part is given rank when people start reaching out to you rather than you are applying. So then Aditya Birla Group interview was coming in, BCG
The
interview was
FLP,
coming
Financial
in.
Leadership Program.
Yeah, Financial Leadership Program, all these things happening. And it was a closed room discussion. I don't even know whether I can tell this, but then Aditya Birla Group had a rule that you have to have at least a degree to get a job in Aditya Birla Group.
Degree as in undergrad?
Undergrad.
Ah, okay. Because
And,
CA, you had CA already.
I had CA.
Undergrad.
And my resume didn't speak anything about my degree. The HR then was asking me like, dude, I went through your entire resume, but it doesn't speak anything about your degree. But I thought like, I believe you would have thought it is menial, like not relevant, so you wouldn't have put it. And like, yeah, but I didn't do one. I just have CA. Like, it hits you even harder when you go and apply for US visa kind of a thing. They'll be like, okay, what is your last classroom education? Yeah, junior college or +2. Like, yeah, it hits me. But it's fine. But the question is, that was a kind of a situation going on, etc. Then BCG interview happened.
So ABG did not hire you then?
That day they didn't. They extended offer for 5-6 people. For the 7th one they didn't, which is me. 2 days later they called me to give an offer, but I already was
At
going through BCG and like kind of in the last leg. And this was kind of once again the herd mentality. I know like my previous rank was chosen this path and all this thing. Very minimal idea on what is management consulting and stuff. Got in and then I was like, I'll come back to ABG in like a day. But then I got in BCG and I was like, okay, I'll go with BCG. Let me figure out. It's a two-way door. Get in, like it, good. Don't like it, come back. It's fine. But at least a herd mentality. Seen enough and more people doing it. Why don't I give it a shot? Got in. And then like life takes a turn. You get in and we all like both my parents have taken VRS. We decided like we'll all shift to Chennai.
Yeah.
We shifted to Chennai, stayed in a rented place for 8 months. And compared to my ambition of making 5-6 lakhs a year, suddenly my like BCG salary looked like Yeah, looks like the ambition got preponed by some 10 years. Like already you are like in a very good position. So they are like, okay, it's all good. Now like as a typical good South Indian who's like got a good job, what should you do next? Go and buy a house. So we went and bought a house in Chennai. And that was there. We lived there for a year. Then my PE interviews all started.
Wait, before that, we'll discuss this, of course. But BCG, if you can just mention more about your interview experience at BCG and any specific case which you've done at BCG, or maybe some sort of interesting things about consulting which people would love to know. And a lot of people are not able to get into management consulting. So there are like a lot of people like me who want to get into management consulting, but we are rejected in the final rounds or in the second, third rounds itself. So for them, if you can just tell how does a typical day look like in a life of a consultant. Like we've heard that you guys go in 5-star hotels, you guys stay there like for weeks and weeks, and then you also have to travel a lot. You have to take almost flights every alternate day. There are like a lot of people, like a lot of facts and like a lot of people tell about these things. So what are like your thoughts on that, and how was your entire life experience there?
Yeah, so overall I stayed in BCG for close to 2 years and 3 months, 27 months.
Yeah.
And within that period, I would have taken more than 200 to 50 flights.
Oh my God.
And here St. Regis in Mumbai became my second home, or actually my first home in my year 2, because I stayed in the St. Regis for more than 150-200 days versus staying in my home in Chennai.
Okay.
So the life was very different. And like when you are at 21 or something, where your first flight was like, just like my BCG was my like second or third flight in life. Before that also, like only after my CA rank is like when I took my very first flight. So for the first 100 flights or 80 flights, I don't think I paid anything from my pocket for my flight. Everything is for speaking somewhere, or for some interviews, or for some events, etc., or for the BCG work. So it was all paid for. So it was kind of like a very different life. You are 21, you see like every weekend you fly back. Then like within like a month or a month and a half, you'll be like a platinum in the hotel, you'll be platinum in the Jet Airways or the flying. You'll get like some red carpet welcome and all these places. Yeah. These are all the good part or fancy part. I wouldn't say good or bad. That's for individual people. Obviously, they try to keep the employees happy because these people work on a long working hours. There's no concept of saying you go to office at 9 in the morning, you'll come back at 5. Consulting is that you go there, you get your job done, and your job and your time gets done when your job is done. So with that as a background, there is little inflexibility and all these things, which helps to get all this lavish lifestyle, etc. as a compensate. At 21, 22, it was like an amazing life. 250 flights. I can like go and write in a place saying like, how will you introduce yourself? Yeah, fun facts. I've taken 250 flights in my life and I'm 22. But the question is, if I look back, it was amazing. But now as a person, like a family man, being in one place made a lot more sense. And that's when like things change. So consulting offers you both kind of a thing. For example, someone more focused on IT, they may be like stationed more in the Bangalore region. Someone focusing more on financial services, they may be stationed in like Mumbai. So you don't necessarily have to take that much flight. Someone focusing on public sector will be more stationed in Delhi because you are there where your client is. So not much of travel, still like the perks of consulting, the lifestyle, the respect, the salary, etc., etc. So just to give a case of my trajectory in consulting, for a boy who has not been in a big four, just moving from a tier 2 or tier 3 or tier 2 to like a metro, trying to learn this corporate culture, etc. My first case, I bombed. I was there for 3 months, and after 3 months, I was let go. Like it's a typical tenure of 3 months for a case. Then I was on the bench for around 5-6 weeks.
What does that mean?
So between your case, generally there is a concept called staffing. So you will be doing like a, say, industrial service groups case today. The next day you might have to go and do like a financial services case. Like not next day, like next stint. Then like the third stint could be maybe a oil and gas kind of a stint. So it works on stints and projects. So when the project ends, you're supposed to move to the next project. But they always have a pool of people who supports the proposal, who's like ready with ammunition kind of a thing. When something like new opportunity comes in, you have to go and say. You can't say, oh, I have hired people, I always have them all occupied with their existing project. You want a project with me, come back after 3 months or 6 months when things are freeing up. You will never make a good client relationship that way. So they have the concept of bench, which works very similar to IT services kind of a thing. Typically a good resource generally has very less bench time because they are poached before even like the previous case gets done. And I was such a great resource. I was in like a bench for 5-6 weeks. At least like still don't know much about like what happened, what all this thing. But then my second case, PL, it was with similar background.
So what
from
went wrong in
Kerala.
the first case?
So at least what I understood is that I was waiting for instructions, waiting for checklists, because we are all auditors, we work on a checklist,
Yeah.
etc. And in consulting, there are two key traits which they keep speaking about. One is called problem solving, second is called ownership. And for me at 21 joining consulting, both of the words were like kind of Cantonese, like which I don't understand. I was just trying to get there, and there was no one who has time and patience to just sit, make you sit, explain all this thing. That's handholding is not a culture, like any consulting or like that set of corporate world. So my second PL, when I spoke to him, that time I understood that dude, problem solving is not when people come and give you a job, explain you the task, and you do it. That is a doer. That's a more monotonous work. Problem
That
solving
is
is when
spoon feeding,
people
basically.
come and give you a problem. You come up with like 100 options, or not 100, maybe exaggeration. You come up with like some 3-4 options, which we call as hypothesis-based problem solving.
Yeah.
You build that hypothesis. After that, go and test it with your seniors. Then they will choose, like maybe you'll test these two hypotheses. Then you come back, you build your case more on that, try to solve the problem, try to build analysis around it, try and test, like do some trial and error on that, come up with a solution. And your first 3 months, you are just waiting for someone to give you the solution directly so that you can go and execute. That's not how things work, because that's not what you're hired for. So that is when it's not just about someone giving you like a 5-pager gyan on problem solving will help you to understand. When he was telling me, I could recognize all the mistakes I was doing in the first 3 months, where I was actually sitting on the table and like waiting for my seniors, because I'm the junior most in the table, to come and tell me what to do, which was not expected. The second, come and tell me like exactly the solution. Second is like ownership. Ownership is where when you are given a task, end to end, it's your responsibility to ensure the task has a closure. The closure doesn't necessarily mean a positive solution. Sometimes it may be that you are told a hypothesis, you are told a particular problem, you try to come to a solution. The closure can be either like, oh, I found a solution, or saying like this particular hypothesis doesn't work, it is going to a roadblock. So let us just go with the next solution or next testing. So that iteration is also kind of a closure, but that is on you. If you are given something, you take the ownership, you take the accountability, you take the responsibility to go see it end to end, which you have not done. You are looking for a checklist for people to come and say what is end to end. There is no defined checklist. So now it made a lot of sense. Then my second case, like when I started my second case, I was learning how to do a pivot table, literally. And by end of the case, I think that's when your interest starts kicking, involvement goes up. Within 3 months, I was trying to excel in Excel. I asked my project leader, who's like kind of a stud in Excel. He took some personal initiative to like teach me. So within the 3 months, by end of 3 months, from someone who's trying to understand the basic output in pivot table, I started writing VBA code in Excel.
What is VBA code?
It's Excel macros, which will automate stuff which you can't just do with formula.
Okay, I had no clue about this.
So the point is, it's not just about putting
like
sums and
macros
pivots.
and all, right?
Yeah, it's all the macros.
Repetitive stuff.
Yes, repetitive actions or like, yeah, exactly. Mainly for the repetitive action or writing a code which actually solves for different stuff. I was doing that, which was kind of interesting. And soon after that, like within less than a year, the PL suggested me to learn more. We learned a tool called Alteryx, which is used for big data analysis, because Excel can't handle a load beyond a level. That is helpful to run all the coding kind of a thing in a heuristic way, to run all the analysis part.
Is it a statistical language tool like R or something?
Kind of that.
SQL
Kind of
or
that. Similar to that. So
how do you spell this? Alteryx.
Alteryx,
Oh,
if I'm not
Alteryx,
wrong.
okay.
Alteryx. And within less than a year, BCG was organizing a Asia Pacific level coaching or training for Alteryx, called Advanced Alteryx Skills, for someone who's already used it, trained well, and excelled in it.
Got it.
And within a year, I was recommended to go there from someone who's like a year back, not even knowing to do the basic stuff in Excel, to go to like, I was one of the 4 people or someone or 5 people or someone from India who was sent to Singapore for that.
Oh wow, very nice.
So with once again all the lack of humility, I can mention this, but the intent, if I have to go back, it's more about once again the interest and involvement point of it, where awareness was lacking and I was not sure what to do. But once I get to know, I realized like, oh, this is really interesting. Why can't I just try it out? And sounds fascinating. And it is not very similar from the concept perspective on what I did for my CA. But if I execute a similar grit, I will be able to get there. So got there, did that. Next 2 years went well. And that's when, as I was telling, now we thought like, oh, life is all set.
Yeah.
Already life is great. We'll go and buy a house kind of a thing. But so that's how the case experience went. But then first I did an industrial case. Then I got into financial services. Then I continued in financial services for the next 2 years. And before I shifted to Advent.
Got it.
But it is like multiple companies, including like an insurance company, a bank in India, a bank in Sri Lanka, NBFC in India. There's a lot of stuff.
Pretty good exposure you would have got in
Yes.
the FS space, financial services. So if you can just give some examples without naming any clients, of course, like what would be the typical case be? How do you solve them? How do you structure them? Because I think one of the most important skills in consulting is problem solving or structuring your problem, right? Like, which is something very crucial. How do you think? How do you structure? How do you break it down? Like the issue tree approach and all. So if you can just give some examples, that'll be very helpful.
Yeah, so once again, as I was saying, without naming a client,
Yeah.
not even the sector they are in. So we are trying to build a employee evaluation tool and employee target setting tool for like a big financial services company which had like tens of thousands of employees with them. And they didn't have a scientific tool to do it in the past, like neither the target setting, not a very robust employee evaluation program also. It's more like manager in the branch, whatever he thinks, he's like, okay, this is a good guy, this is a bad guy. Okay, eval on that, like then they get promotion, everything more subjective. We try to make it like at least 70% more objective. Similarly, a target when it is set, it has to be more thoughtful and it has to be more, I would say, multiple parameters thought through. I wouldn't say A, ML and all this thing, but it is at least more analyzed and thoughtful rather than saying like very ad hoc. So we tried to build that. We started it with a Excel tool. So the end objective was, it's a 12 months to 18 months program. The end objective is to build a digital tool which could actually help in an end-to-end employee target and performance journey. But this is more a tool, or a digital system is just an enabler for something which you have a thinking clarity beyond outside the tool. So the journey started with saying, okay, the tool will take time, but we have to run these things before that. So first question is, okay, let us take the historical targets they have set for the last 2 years, 3 years. Take the historical performance of those branches like for the last 3-4 years. Compare how it has been. What is the correlation between the two? Is the target even matching to, like, say, if a branch has done well, and there is a concept of micro market, saying in a particular area, you overall India in the particular subsegment, you may be like only 5% market share, but in the particular micro market, let's say in Mumbai, you are already 40% market share. I can't come and tell you like, oh, Mumbai is growing at 2%, why can't you grow at 12%?
Correct.
Just because you are big and you perform well. That won't work. But rather I have to see, okay, there is a historical performance, there's a track record of it, then there's a size of the branch, then how the branch or the market is growing. These are like publicly available data or heuristic based data. Is this two speaking to each other? Is the size like good enough? Then what kind of employees or kind of the pyramid they have there? Based on their pyramid, like because each have their cost.
Based on their
pyramid, like how many senior managers they have,
pyramid.
how many like it's based on the hierarchy structure,
Yeah.
how many senior managers, general managers, branch managers, etc. Is it good enough, like the target is meeting there, is it absorbing the cost, what is the branch level profitability of the particular branch? Some branches will be more focused on deposits only, some will like focused on like lending part of it, etc. So we started thinking on these lines. It's more about then coming to a solution, saying first answer whether, okay, for building a tool, what is it you want to first answer? Is the current methodology or system correct or wrong? So you have to first understand what is the problem. We are trying to identify a problem. The problem that was thrown to us is that we are not sure whether we are doing it right or wrong. Why can't you guys figure it out and tell me what is the right way to do a target setting and employee appraisal?
Yeah.
So we start with asking like, okay, is the current system or current outcome even right or wrong? If it is right, good. Which are the areas where it is right? We can say, oh, there are 15 products in the particular branch, maybe deposit, advances, like some wealth management, etc., etc. 3-4 different people, like because every target is set by different teams, 3-4 teams are doing a good job, but remaining 7-8 teams are not doing a good job. Okay, find where it is right, find where it is wrong. If you say it is right, quantify it. So how will you quantify? Then you start thinking, saying, is there a correlation with historical performance? Is there a correlation with the market performance? What is the variance between the target versus actual achievement? Then is it profitability good enough for them for the scale they have achieved? So you define the parameters, then you evaluate how will they define a particular problem as a solution. Question is they doing it right? Whether they are doing it right or wrong, it has to be defined. So what is right? Defined right. What is wrong? Defined wrong. Now you know what is right or wrong, the metrics and analysis around it. Now how to make it right? Define the solution on it. There are 3-4 different ways of making it right. Okay, instead of like one person doing it, can you have a maker-checker concept? Or can we have it like, okay, if it is a branch problem, why don't the branch propose a target for them and let's validate it rather than like doing it top down. So they feel like more involved rather than saying that, oh, I've got some shit from the top, now I don't know what I'm going to do. So there are 100 ways of, so that's when you start doing the next set of hypothesis. In this leg you're saying, what is my first hypothesis? Top down approach. Second hypothesis, bottom approach. Third hypothesis, top down but with the maker checker concept. So you build the various options. So you do a benchmarking with how other similar companies are doing it, or you do a benchmarking internally to say how they have they done it in the past, why like the particular departments are able to do better, why the other departments are not able to do better. So this is the way you approach. So the question is, define a problem, define a hypothesis, and once you define it, it is not just like making a problem statement, also defining how will you identify the problem. So there is a problem, yes, the profit is not good, okay, yes, why? Then ask like what are the metrics, how will you define a problem? Once you have those metrics, then defining what hypothesis you can derive based on the or how will you come to an answer for the metrics. Once you come to an analysis and answer, then how will you find a solution for it? What are the different approaches to that? So that's how we build a problem statement or the tree for a problem and then come to a hypothesis based solution.
Got it. That's very granular. Thanks for that, by the way. And then, like the skills which you're taught in consulting, like problem solving, structuring, I think these skills are also very much valued by these private equity funds, venture capital funds, and they hire majorly from investment banks or management consulting. So then you took a plunge in private equity, and you then took a plunge, right? Like from BCG, and then you went into Apollo or Advent. Advent, got it. So how was this entire plunge, and what were the interview questions? How were they different from the interview questions that you were asked in BCG interview? And how did this shift happen, and what was your work experience at Apollo like? Advent like?
But interestingly, problem solving, ownership, hypothesis based problem solving, it's not just a job thing, it's a life thing. Like I think I tried to even implement it as a part of my marriage. It's an arranged marriage. I went with a set of questions and hypotheses, and my wife was like, what is wrong with you? But interestingly, she didn't have much of questions during the meeting. But then it's like, okay, at least I can have a structure of like how we navigate through whether we are compatible or not.
What kind of questions did you ask?
Yeah, I think like that will move away from my private life to my personal life. We'll just keep that as it for now.
But no, I don't want the answers. I don't want the answers to the questions.
We have like private tips when you are getting married. We'll come to that. But the point is, when you are trying to solve a solution, like there is always a problem in any aspect of your life. It may be a job, it may be a like a personal life. There is always a solution. We all think through that way, like everyone in the world. The question is, in case of these interviews, what is different is, for example, if I go for like a core accounting interview, they'll ask me like, okay, why don't you define this accounting standard? What is a WACC, like weighted average cost of capital, or how will you explain particular data entry or journal entry kind of a thing? What have we learned in this particular costing method? How does this law work, etc.? Which is more about, have you learned your basics right or wrong? But interestingly, in consulting, because I've just did both ABG interview and BCG interview, just like in the span of 3 days, I could see the stark difference in this. You enter the room, there will be like a person waiting there. That's a concept of case interview, in which they'll just come and say like, oh, nice, good, okay. So tell me this, like for example, they'll just give like, it can be as simple as saying there is a company A, the profit is declining in the last 1 year. The company couldn't find why. How will you approach it? That's it. It's your interview question which you have to defend for the next 25 minutes. But the good thing is, the entire interview model, which I funnily say, is that once you enter the room, after the first question, you become the interviewer. Because as a person who is trying to solve a problem, then I will start thinking, okay, you are saying there is a company which is facing a issue in the profitability. Let me just try to understand a bit more about the company. First tell me, what is this company? Is there a name for the company? Is there a sector in which they operate in? Help me, like, give me a little more clarity. Okay. Second, you are saying like they're declaring in profitability. Doesn't mean like they're also declaring in revenue, or they're declaring only in the like margin. What is leading to the profitability? Do we have a clarity around it? Okay. When you say there is profit decline, you are saying it like on absolute terms, or like as a profitability as a percentage. So you try to ask more and more and more questions.
Yeah.
But the good part or the important thing is there should be an 80-20 in it. Because asking question, like especially as Indians, we are mastered in it. You can ask some 100 questions, of which 90 will be irrelevant. Can't waste your time of the 20 minutes asking irrelevant question. So the art is about asking the right question or relevant question which can move the answer materially.
Correct.
Once you have asked the preliminary question, then comes like the concept of taking some 30 seconds to 1 minute to grasp it, form your hypothesis or thesis. Now you know a problem statement, you have some basic understanding about the company, you will form a thesis. For example, okay, let me try to solve it. There is a company which is facing issue in the profit. A very basic standard framework is like, okay, profit is revenue into minus cost is equal to profit. Revenue can be split as like volume versus price. Volume can be further split as like for like volume, or like can be a mix in the volume. So there is a clean structure it goes in. Then the best part is, once again, you plot a structure, you can't just go and say, I have a 4-page structure, let's discuss. The best part starts at, you have a very prelim structure, you note down free point saying that, for example, if they say it's a consumer goods company, like say Lace chips, versus it's an industrial company, say like someone making a motor product, they can be approached very differently. There could be different reason. You have to apply your current affairs knowledge also to that. For example, there's a delay happening in the car delivery today because of the, in between there was a semiconductor chip manufacturing delay and all this thing. Try to apply all those knowledge if they say it's an industrial company which is delayed in revenue, etc. But once you have this thing, then you ask the interviewer again, saying, okay, now I have a thesis of approaching it in 4 different manner. The reason could be because either the revenue would have gone down or the cost would have gone up, because of which the profit would have come down. You tell me which one should I start with. I'm thinking of starting with revenue. Are you fine? If the person says fine, you're good. If the person says no, I think revenue is fine, what would we focus on cost? Your entire time that you want to do on revenue just goes away. So that's how it works. So that is how the interview process is, where they keep testing you, like where they keep guiding you to solve a problem, which you can see even in interview. And after completing my 4-5 interviews in BCG, there was not even one question about accounting or law or anything, which was so surprising. But the question is, they look for something where they just try to see, are you smart enough to solve a problem irrespective of the stream you are coming from? You can be an engineer, you can be a doctor, you can be an accountant, you can be anyone. But the question is, we are looking for a skill set, which is not like, do you know your stream well and better, which is good. That's why we shortlisted you to be here. You are a ranker, or you are a IITN or IIM guy, that's why you are here. But apart from the academic knowledge, are you also comfortable and like a good problem solver? That's a core focus there. And the focus of interviews doesn't shift in private equity also.
Got it.
So the interview process in private equity also is like 80% on this. But now that you are already an experienced person, because a bulge bracket private equity very, very, very rarely hire directly from a college. So you will be always an experienced person who's getting into private equity. They will spend another 20-30 minutes to 20-30% of the interview to understand your experience. Another 10-15% maybe, like 50% of case interview similar to consulting, 20-30% on asking your experience, how did you solve a particular problem in your resume, etc. Another 10-15% to know, are you someone who's aware of the basics of private equity or financials, financial modeling, financing, etc. Like, or do you even know what is a TEV, like the enterprise value? Because it's not something that is only or supposed to be known only in private equity. It's as simple as, if you invest your personal money in stock market, you should know the basic metrics. You should know the concept of market capital. You should know the concept of CAGR. You should know the concept of what is margin profitability, what is the return on investment, etc., etc. Do you know that? Do you have a view on how to build it? So private equity interviews are kind of very similar to consulting, because there also they look for something very similar in the experience, which is how good you are in problem solving, and are you someone who's naturally inclined to solve a business problem, etc. So I would say 50-60% is mainly case interviews across the level, and another 20% maybe speaking about your resume, saying you have done some work experience, how did you think about it, what is your involvement in that, what is something you did differently, if someone has to give you a similar problem, how will you solve it, etc. Just try to understand how involved were you in your past work. another 20% to understand like the basics on private equity, kind of like which is financials, valuation, modeling, because this is not something you need to know only because of private equity, right? Even for your personal investment, you need to know what is the basics of how to value something, concept of what is a multiple, what is a enterprise value, market capitalization, growth, CAGR, all these things. So they need to see how involved you are on this, like are you even aware of the basic concept? Because if everything else is kept in the same level, if someone is already aware of it or inclined towards it, they have a little higher edge. So overall, that is how it is broadly there. But from interview effort or like fundamental perspective, it is more about do you know your job better, your resume better, then it's mainly inclined towards your case interviews.
Got it. Makes sense. And in the private equity industry, like you've worked in 3 companies. So, like, what would be the work profile like? How would your typical day look like? And are you able to manage your personal life?
Yeah, like there are multiple questions with nested
Yeah.
questions included in that. But I would just say one big difference is this, which I think is like also an insight, is that there are 3 different companies I worked with without naming who is who. One is kind of a very deep value investor who feels that I'm not going to pay up some like great multiple great valuation to buy a company. I'll buy a company which I find reasonable to value, something which gives good cash flow, etc. One is a growth investor who's like, I believe in the growth story. I believe this company can grow at 20% CAGR, etc. Hence, I'll be happy to pay up because 5 years it will make my return. Then someone is like midway, who is that I can believe in the growth story, but it still doesn't mean I'll let's lean in to do everything whatsoever. But rather, I'll have my own cushion where I'll feel comfortable with the cash flow profile, some cost takeout kind of etc. plus growth story. Interestingly, all 3 are successful. All 3 are global funds. Everyone has been like kind of one of the large top 10 funds equivalent globally. So there's no one right mantra to success. So different people follow different approach. And for you to maintain your experience and personal work-life balance, etc., it's more about how quickly and swiftly you can navigate through that thinking. Because you can't apply and say like, oh, I have worked in a firm which is more focused on value approach. I'll come and like exactly replicate that in the next firm. As a firm, as a culture, the kind of investment they do, it won't work. So if you can navigate through that, if you can understand what is needed in your job and what is good, it's like great. The only nuance is this particular job is taxing in few months if there is a real deal on your plate, and if you are asked to be like boss, we are competing with 4 other funds, we need to ensure that we are getting the company. So for that we can't just go and pay up because like we want to do it. If you have to pay up, we need to know what is good about the company, what is bad about the company. Even if it is not just about paying up, we need to get convinced that what we can do differently in this investment so that we can make a return. So the question comes on diligences, work effort, etc. So I would broadly classify as like 12 months of a calendar year. 3 to 4 months will be peak diligence time, where you go to office at 9 in the morning. You make, if you are lucky, in those 3 months, you will come home by like say 12 or 1 in the night. If you're unlucky, you'll come home like at 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning based on
And
the
you have to
amount
reach
of
again
effort
at
and all
9
this thing.
a.m.
And again next day morning you start at 9,
So you
10 or
sleep
something.
for 2 hours. That's it.
3, 4, but maybe like a 2 week stint
Yeah.
like this, then like 1 week of break, then another 2, 3 week stint like this. But that's how it is. Because the question is, that's what the demand wants. And interestingly, US is something considered to be like a work-life balance company. Like you ask any IT services guys, they'll be like, "Oh, I work for a US client. I'm really happy because I have to go for a night shift, but the guy stops at 5:30. He's not going to do anything more. He'll be like, "Oh, you are my vendor. Come back and discuss on Monday. It's Friday 5:30. What is wrong with you? Why are we sitting and discussing this?" Even in US, the industry works this way. So it's not about geo-specific or something else. This is what the demand supply is. Everyone is fighting for a good quality, high value asset. And the fastest fingers win is kind of a concept. This is like saying, well, I'm a sports person. I'm like, say, I want to become MS Dhoni. I can't go and say I want a 9 to 5 kind of a job if the aspiration is that.
Correct.
And I'm not saying being in a job consultant or PE is
Yeah,
equal
yeah.
to being like this thing. But people, many a time people use these terms like goals, passion, and all this thing. Honestly, if you ask me, I don't have like much differentiation or much clarity till date. If someone asks me, what is your passion? Yeah, I actually think for me, passion is doing something that helps me to keep thinking, and I feel like I'm valued both in respect and also in money for what I'm doing. I'm happy with that. Someone says singing is a passion, art is a passion, cricket or like sports is a passion. Just going to office, how is it a passion? I'm like, oh, that is still passion to me, because the outcome is something where it's a kind of a job where I get a respect, where I get to speak to different CEOs at different point in time. It's a great job, pays me well. I'm happy. The question is, rather than looking for a work-life balance, because those 3-4 months are like this, then 3-4 months are like you're chill, like we are on a Saturday evening sitting and discussing for like more than an hour and a half, no tension, no calls, no headaches. Some weeks will be like this. Remaining 6 months you may be working for an average of anywhere between 9 to 12 13 hours depending on the cyclicality. Some weeks will be like 12 13 hours, some week will be like 9 hours per day equivalent, whatever it is. But the question is, are you happy doing it? That may be a good question. And like, are you building a right ecosystem around it? I think I find to be, that may be a relevant question for me, and I'm doing it.
Yeah.
Because for example, my wife is flexible. So we decided that we just completed a deal. In a 3 days notice, we want to fly somewhere. We're like, okay, we'll go. Yeah, obviously I can't fly to Europe or Japan with like a 3 days notice. The visa takes more time. But we just decided that, oh, suddenly there is some lull time. Take a leave, we'll just fly somewhere. We'll just go and have some fun time. Take a leave, we'll take our parents to somewhere. We like, recently, for example, last year we took our parents to paragliding also. Like they are both senior citizens. They also
Very
enjoyed it.
Where?
But the question, it's in near Lonavala here only. So 2 hours
okay.
drive. We just decided like one weekend, suddenly we have a lot of time, let's go. So the question is, are you flexible to bifurcate between your personal time and office time? And then have fun with it. For example, like everyone's saying 24 hours, I can spend 23 hours for you, but 1 hour for my personal grooming and gym is my time. I have known enough and more people in this profession who does that. Who are like, I know I'm going to sleep for 3 hours. Rather than trying to sleep for 4 hours, I'll sleep 3 hours, but rather I'll spend the 1 hour in gym. That is the discipline we build. So it may sound like, oh, discipline is so rare. These are the profession in which like only very limited set of people are there. You are competing with already like high competing people, and they are here because they have already built the discipline as a part of their habit and ecosystem. So the question is, how do you keep yourself happy in this? I think everyone have different way of doing it. For me, I keep it flexible. There are, for example, people say, oh, I have come for a tour. Like recently we went for an offsite in Thailand. It's a 3-4 days offsite. I extended my trip both left and right. Like previous Saturday I went, next Sunday I came back. People are like, dude, what if you get a job in between? I don't know how will I manage. I want to have like a clean tour versus a clean this thing. I'm like, yeah, I wish. For me, that's a best in case scenario, but I'm not going to feel bad about it. Suppose if I have to do a 2 hours call sitting in Thailand, I would say rather than doing a 2 hours call sitting in my room in Grant Road, I would rather do it in like the beach sitting in Thailand, because after the 2 hours, I will still have fun time.
Yeah.
So the question is, where do you draw a line on like what is your personal time, what is not your personal time? Sometimes your personal time is like my close one's wedding is coming. The good part is the industry has a lot of good people. Even in the middle of a diligence, if you say like your sister's wedding is coming or like something important is happening, you'll say like, see, let this be clear. These are things which I can plan well in advance. Before 6 months, I'm giving you notice. So if I'm getting staffed on something in the middle of the diligence, I have to take this 1 week break. They will manage this with the proper planning, proper diligence on, okay, let us bring in someone else to take over, then come back and get it. So planning actually helps, and people are really nice in the industry. They are accommodative, but obviously I can't take a 3 weeks leave, which I could afford to if I'm in like a traditional job.
Yeah.
So there are some pros and cons in everything, but considering all the pros I have and the respect and the kind of job and the interest with this, I think if you can draw a line on what triggers you for happiness versus unhappiness, that will help you. It's good. But personal life management, I wouldn't say coming home at 5:36 is my way of defining a work-life balance, or ensuring my weekend is always clean for 52 weeks is not my way of defining a work-life balance.
Correct. No, makes sense. That justifies that you are really enjoying your work, and I think even those late nights which are there, I think it would be satisfying or rewarding once the deal is done, where you would be like, yeah, dude,
So
this is done.
interestingly, I was in Advent. Before moving from Advent to Apollo, I was in my notice period without revealing the deal name. It's a sizable, big deal. I was in the deal when the teams in Advent, like people higher up, they were like, dude, the guy is in notice period. I know you were in the deal. You kept him in the deal. They were speaking to my VP, and my VP was batting for me. I was an associate then, and they were asking my VP like, dude, will he do a good job because there's a notice period? Like all these memes you see in social media, like, okay, the dude in notice period is like the most chilled out dude kind of thing. Like my VP told, I trust him because he gets a kick in the job, and I don't think he will do any subpar work. He told that to them. He came back and told me like, see, I batted for you. I didn't even come and ask you for an opinion, but we already had a chat that if you're looking out still, if the deal continues, you will do. We agreed, we aligned, we did. On 88th day of my notice period, the deal got signed.
88th day. How long was the notice period?
90 days.
Oh, acha.
So
My God.
that was a Wednesday or Thursday. The deal got signed on 88th day. I was working those 3 months, the peak 3 months, the entire 2.5 years. That was my peak 3 months of productivity and efficiency and the hours I put, etc.
Oh, wow.
And I got 2 days break, the 89th day and 90th day. And then I joined the next firm. And we were also discussing that what if the deal doesn't get signed? Should we call up the next firm and tell the head of the next firm that we'll keep Sriram for one more week because we are in the last leg of the lap?
My God.
And they were like, thankfully it didn't happen. I could honor both the commitments of getting here,
Wow.
get deal done here and go there. But interestingly, I realized that gives me the good kick, and I enjoy it. It's not like I'm getting carried or like not I've done the deal, like life is going to be very different for me. But the question is a lot of learnings to do, and like deal making is something really big because a firm in a year does like 2 to 3 deals max. If you're lucky enough to be a part of it, just cherish the moment and enjoy it. If you're in the mindset, like exactly the passion, you do that. If not, you can't.
Right. No, makes sense. And in this entire industry of PE, like this is one of the most high-paying industries as well, where even people know, I mean, the pay and all, it's like quite lucrative, and that is also one of the reasons why people also want to get into PE. Like aspiring folks have that inclination that, of course, the profile is very lucrative, where you get to work with the best companies, with the smartest minds of the country, and secondly, the pay is also high. So why do you think, according to you, like what is one of the reasons that the pay in this industry is very high as compared to the pay in other industries? Or maybe like what exactly is the business model of these PE which ensures that the pay is automatically higher?
Good question. I don't know, like at some point whether it becomes like I need to like caveat it big time saying it's like my opinion on how things are. But the question is, are we doing like a life-saving work like a doctor does or like some military guys does? Like obviously no. But the only delta is the reason why you get paid more is like money makes money. That's a fundamental reality of it. And forget about PE. Let's also even talk about like the basic companies like a sales representative or someone in the basic sales role at the age of 25-30 who actually takes his bike, go and meet multiple people, distributors or like say doctors and all these people. He makes one of the low money in the hierarchy of things. Someone who's like a sales lead who manages 10 sales rep, they make little more money. All the person does is actually like handling these 10 people. 4 such people handled by a different senior manager makes more money. So we create hierarchy on like people do it. It's not for the sake like I need to have a hierarchy because I need to pay more. That's not the objective. The thing is productivity increases significantly. Now like I'm paying one guy more because that guy is giving me leverage in the CEO to handle 10 people because CEO cannot handle the entire 20,000 people below. So every layer gets like a better money and the CEO gets the best of the money in the company. CEO works for 24 hours and so is the person in the manufacturing and all this thing. So can someone come and ask like all this thing? We can become a communist and say like, oh, CEO also should not be paid, make everything communism, like all one has to be paid equally or like redistribute the wealth, etc., blah, blah. But unfortunately, democratic, little capitalistic economy doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
The real answer is the fact that we deal with money and lots of money. Like you won't go and like read about all the investments done by these PE firms. They'll be in like 1,000 crore invested there, 4,000 crore invested there, 20,000 crore invested here, all these things. So when they invest so much money with an expectation that whatever you invest should become double, triple, 4 times, whatever, the money it multiplies into is once again a lot of money.
Yeah.
The question is,
Makes sense.
not everyone can do this. It needs a different level of great knowledge, understanding, etc. Once again, if you ask me like only the PE folks who are there today, they can do it. I think honestly, we are all like, most of us are at least like lucky enough to be there. There are enough and more smart people who are unfortunately unlucky to like just get into that at the right time, in the right place, with the right attitude. But with the people who are there, who are definitely smart, who are helping to get you this, like say 1,000, 10,000, 2,000, 5,000 like investment, who make it like say 15,000, 20,000, whatever. They take a cut of it, obviously. That's how the
Yeah.
model works.
Yeah.
And that, because the base is so big and handled by a small set of people, the cut is getting distributed, makes it big.
Right.
And the only reality is like more and more money, it's leading to more money like just getting funneled down across
Right.
the hierarchy.
Makes sense.
That makes it like much more lucrative. Like 20 years back, India if someone asked what is a PE job, no one would have known.
Yeah.
25 years back, if someone asked what is a consulting, no one would have known. So for parents, like they were lack of opportunity. Like many people in our parents' generation who could have been a CEO today, who could have been a businessman today, their thinking on what life approach they wanted to take would have been very different if they were born today or like as our generation. Because opportunities were very different. Like till Narayana Murthy or like the Wipros and the likes of this, like bringing up IT services. Like what was IT services for people who were born in 1960? Like who already completed their education by 1980, everyone going for like some set of engineering or science or like some group, already getting into a job, not taking any risk of joining some offshoring, etc. So for them, it's a big risk to get into offshoring when it was not established. But look at the industry today. Today, someone like any degree or anything, people say like I'm in IT services. It's a large pool of job which was non-existent 30 years back for like a big generation. So the question is, if you ask me 20 years from now, like will PE be the most paid job? I don't know.
Yeah.
15 years back, it would have been consulting because PE was non-existent. Before consulting, it could have been maybe IT because consulting was non-existing. I don't know what will come in the future. Maybe VC, maybe like some cryptos, but at least there's a
AI.
lot of visibility. Maybe AI, saying like, yeah, even this 20 crore, some crore investment, instead of these 10 people, like even get rid of them. Just get me one people, get a right approach for you, maybe expedited, etc. Happen. I'm not saying it won't. Like, you need to keep updated.
Correct.
But the question it is like, what is the right trend? And money makes more money.
Correct.
That's it.
Makes sense. No,
Even
that's
from the
very
days
good
of
answer.
kings, businessmen always were rich. The reason being they handle with like a lot of money. So irrespective of king being in a power, businessmen are also like rich enough to like handle enough stuff. And so the things haven't changed like for ages or centuries.
Correct.
As long as you deal with more money, you get more money.
Makes sense. At your company and all, I mean, since you're the vice president there, I'm sure like you're also at a hiring role where you would be taking interviews and all. What would you look for before hiring anyone? What are some of the skills you would look for?
See, if I just say what my company does or like what like a bulge bracket PE does, it may be very small subset of what is the right answer. So I wouldn't say about like only bulge bracket PE because that has one, like in India, maybe once again a wild guesstimate, we will have some 15 bulge bracket PE with average of some 300 professionals or 200 to 300 professionals there across like say VP to MD partner level. So how will like exactly these 300 got hired? I don't think there is a right answer to that. But if you think about it in a much wider space, investing both from the domestic investors or foreign investors, things are like improving today. What will people generally look for both corporate investment or also for personal investment? There I would say, once again, as I was telling, problem solving is something very key. I wouldn't say it only as saying it's needed only for a job. Someone in IT services doesn't need it. A guy in IT services today comes and say like, okay, I'm going to go and bet on TCS or I'm going to go and bet on Reliance. Like why? Like why? Because I saw like last 5 years they've been like giving return. That's not the right answer. Are you seeing future in that? What do you think like why they are valuable? What is the problem they are trying to solve? How will you think about like their strategy? And you can apply their maintenance strategy only if you have a problem solving skill. So I would say the basics of problem solving is something very important for someone to appreciate it much better, even on the personal life or like any kind of a finance investment kind of a role. Followed by understanding the basics of valuation and basics of financial model, because it's very very easy for someone to come and say, oh, I'm a doctor, I'm an engineer, this is not my forte, etc. But you're a doctor working for a salary, you're an engineer working for a salary. Come what may, like I go and meet a doctor maybe when I'm not feeling well, or today there is enough and more OTC drugs a pharmacist is solving for. I go and meet an engineer, never. You buy a house, meet a salesperson. You buy a fan, buy a TV, buy a vehicle, you meet a salesperson. I'm never meeting an engineer for that.
Yeah.
But all these people, instead of making money, is going and seeing a finance professional like an auditor for tax or something. And once you make money, too much money you make, you pay tax on it. Too much money you make, you want money to multiply more, which means you need to make return on it. So how will you make a return? The question is now, tax, yes, it's a very nuanced concept. Hence, you want to look for a different person. Return making, yes, once again, nuanced concept. But are you going to go and hire like enough and more mutual fund advisors or portfolio managers to do that? Because they also have a scale and size to decide what they want to do. They are not going to say like, oh, I'm someone who has a 2 lakhs of investment. How will I make money out of it? Why don't you come and advise? Because you need to pay him 20,000. Why will you go and do that? But rather, you can build up some simple skills, which is understanding the basics of finance. You can be from any genre of education, but understanding finance is important.
Yeah.
And if I can help that I think it will help, which can be including basics of how to build a model, how to think
Correct.
about like growth, how to think what is the profitability, how do you to justify a valuation for something. Like if someone says, oh, Paytm got listed, then the stock was falling or rising. Okay, you see that, but value creation, value or depletion, how do you justify? What do you see from that? Like, or if you have bought, like, say, Wipro share for 1,000 rupees some 40 years back, it would have become 1,000 times today. It would have been like 10 lakhs or 1 crore or whatever. Once again, why it happened? What led to that? If you have to like build a model, like think about it. For example, if someone say, dude, I need 1 crore in 2044 instead of 2024 or something, or I need to make 1 crore on that. But let's do this. You give me 20 lakhs today, and I'll give you like 1 crore, or 10 lakhs today, and I'll give you 1 crore like 20 years from now. It sounds like on mathematical number like 10 times money in 20 years, dude. Sounds so good. But if you actually put a KGR, like at a 10% return, money doubles in every 7 years. The question is like 7 years, 14 years, 21 years. Like within 14, like 1 become 2, 2 become 4, 4 become 8. So 10 lakhs become 80 lakhs in like this period, like in a 20-year period, just with the 10% return. Like FD returns are like 7-8%. So you are just giving someone like increments of 2%, like for someone who you don't even know.
Correct.
Like Nifty has grown at 15% CAGR. So at a 15% it doesn't sound lucrative. At 10x it looks something very different.
Correct.
The question is like, it's more about marketing, positioning, and sales.
Yeah.
But are you able to decipher it and get the right answer to that? Maybe both for your personal life and also for a job which is beyond PE. Like how many mutual fund or financial advice will we have? Not many. There should be a lot of options that are popping up for someone with the right mindset and right knowledge around it. You can be someone a diploma holder, you can be a commerce holder, you can be like an engineer from a normal college. But like if you hand on heart, if you ask me, like all the businessmen in India are like from the backup of IITs and IIMs. You can take all the startups and unicorns and say like, oh, these are IITs, IIMs, except for the few. These are IIT, IIM, like great breed of people who came and do it. But think of all the people who built like massive businesses, which IITs and IIMs they went to. In India, like if you take the top 30, top 50 conglomerates and take the top 10 people in each conglomerate, how many IITs and IIMs you can pick who are more than 50 years old? They built it. They are here. So the question is it's not about the cream of the pedigree, but it's more about the knowledge you build.
Right.
And I think one of the fundamental knowledge will be on the finance part of it.
Right. No, makes sense. I think that's a very justified answer. Let's take the last question. This is an interesting one. This is a tricky one, which I ask to all the guests who come on my podcast. If
Should
you
I
were,
run or like should I stay?
of course, you have to stand. We
Let
want
me
to
get
hear.
some water before that. Yeah.
You're naturally, I mean, this humor comes to you quite naturally, is what I've noticed over the last 1.5 hours. So I'm not sure if people would have told you, but I think you can also try stand-up comedy as an
Yeah,
alternate
unfortunately, my
career.
opportunity cost is very high. I understand finance also more than my this thing, so doesn't work.
Yeah, that's a good one. So yeah, this is the question. If you were in the shoes of Kushal Lodha and you were interviewing Sriram, what is one question which you would like to ask him towards the end of the interview? I like that reaction, by the way.
No, it's a good question. Like a question on what will be your question. Yeah.
And then you have to answer that question. Do you want some more water?
No, I'm just waiting for the camera to run out of battery. But like jokes apart, I think the question that I would ask you, which I think partly was already asked as a part of thing, is like, are you happy doing what you are doing today? If not, what will you do differently to make yourself happy?
Yeah.
Like it may be a 3-year, 5-year, 10-year
Correct.
journey, but what do you have in your mind? And even if you're happy, there is no like one saturation point for happiness, right? I'm not saying like you become a saint saying like no happiness, no sad and all this thing, like you're a human. From that angle, like what will make you more happier, or what do you think like you'll do differently in life today, which could make you a little more happier? Because I think like defining like
that's a
what
good
is
question.
successful, like money or like fame, or like happen, but all these things are like in the end of the day gives you the
I think
adrenaline of
it's
giving you happiness.
secondary, yeah.
I'm not saying secondary. Success
No,
makes you happy. Money
correct.
makes you happy. Definition makes you happy. You're like watching a great movie makes you happy. I think in my mind, whatever you do, like the end equation is like just being happy.
Yeah.
So what will it be?
So yeah, that's a good point actually. So you've answered the first part of the question in the previous podcast, but the second part, if you can answer, what is something that you will do differently to make you happier? I didn't get that answer. So what would be that? That's a really good question, by the way. I mean, I'm trying to think what would be the
I'm
answer.
gonna ask you like in the end before we close.
No, this is a podcast where I'm going to interview you.
You told me
Okay.
if I have to ask myself, what will I ask you? Maybe like I will answer only after you tell. Now that
No,
you're gonna jump, it sounds like you're being sneaky. Like
No,
the
I'm
moment I
kidding.
answer, you'll be like, okay,
No.
interview done. So why don't you like go first?
No, I'm kidding. I'll answer.
Okay.
I'm just taking some time to think.
Sure. So, see, I would actually put it in two different angles. One is like, I wish I have the same fear of failure more on my health perspective, so I could have less tires on my body, literally. And that is something I've been like more lethargic, more thinking like I'm in my 20s, what will happen in life, like have all the carbs in life, like give more preference for your taste and tongue rather than on your health. So I think maybe that would give me more satisfaction or happiness as a person, saying like, good, you're having a great life in office, great family and all this thing. Maybe like, why don't you start focusing on your health also? Because one thing I strongly believe, I strongly tell folks also that life expectancy average in the last 50 years, if you look at it, it has increased significantly. Today, India life expectancy, I may be wrong, but somewhere like 60s, 70s.
72, right? Yeah,
Something
I
like
think
that.
70. 72.
And when we become old, I would be really surprised if it is less than 90 or 100. Like, unless some disaster happens, if you continue the life the way you are, which is 90%
it?
of the case. Like, because it was 28, 30 or like something long
Correct.
back
Yeah,
and become
yeah.
70. Like,
Yeah.
why will I not believe like
It
something
can
that,
become 90.
like,
Yeah, makes sense.
with all the medicines and the number of people you see who die like very late.
Yeah.
The question is, you will survive till 190, whatever, like, especially with the kind of money you have, the kind of treatments you can get, they will keep elongating your life to at least some certain extent. So, I wouldn't be surprised if I live till 100 if unless something wrong happens.
Yeah.
But at the age of 60, what will I regret not doing today will be like the question of my health.
Yeah.
Because I don't want my last 40 years to be regretting like, shit, man, I should have done something in the early
Correct.
age. Like the back pain, neck pain, knee pain, this, that, random diabetes, random like 2 stents in heart, like all these things I don't want to. And this is something I've been like thinking, once again thinking, not really executing on it, but I think something that would make me more happier is like if I start focusing more on my health and start wearing it a bit better.
Got it.
Because I think like come what may, I'm gonna live till 100. Why don't you live it happily in long term versus like the short term happiness of crazy fried food and all this.
That's a very candid, frank answer actually. I appreciate that. Perfect.
It's your time.
I thought you would have forgotten.
No.
I think for me, right, what will make me happier or what can I do to make me happier? I think I'm a person who's very, I don't know, I mean, I take a lot of, I was talking to my friend who happens to be my ex-roommate actually. I used to stay with him for 1 year, Subbu Wutla, right? So he's one of the closest persons. I talk to him like about any problems I'm having in my life or something of that sort. And he's one of those who has taught me a lot of things, to be honest. And I have huge respect for, I don't know if this might sound something, but I have huge respect for people who are from South. I don't know why, but you guys are very, very passionate about something, very hardworking, very sincere. And I have like huge respect for all the people I've met in my life from like, let's say Bangalore, Chennai, like that, those part of India. So he's also telling me like things which will make me happier, right? I was just telling him that I take a lot of stress or pressure of, let's say, कि हाँ मेरे को जल्दी grow होना है. I want to grow very quickly in my life. I want to make a lot of money very quickly. I'm 24 right now. I want to, let's say, make this much amount of money by the next 2 years and all. I set like not unrealistic but very high or over ambitious goals. And he's like, because of that I am losing on my, let's say, hobbies, or I'm losing out on time with my family, I'm losing out on my personal time of, let's say, playing cricket. If there's a tournament of cricket which happened today and tomorrow on 3rd and 4th of June, organized by my very close friend, I did not go there because I had a course to take on the platform, like on the startup which I'm building. So I think I should, like, things of indulging into my hobbies, or let's say playing cricket, playing more of table tennis, or just, like, doing those activities will make me happier, and not taking too much pressure of, let's say, growing very quickly. That'll make me happier. But still, I'll tell you, to be honest, I don't think I'll go towards that path. Even I know that that'll make me happier and peaceful, I still think I'll be focused on this path itself. I don't know, that's my character or nature, but it's very difficult to change now, is what I've realized. Even I'm being very frank, by the way. Yeah. So
also, like the caveat, like I know that will give me happiness, sukun milega, but nahi chahiye.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the way. Correct. So yeah, that's about me. But thank you so much for doing this. This was absolute fun, and thanks for being very candid. I'm sure like your parents would be damn proud of you, and like they would be very happy with all the success you have had in your professional career as well. And I was surprised. I didn't know about this fact that your mom and dad both took a VRS after your CA. And as of now, you're 27, you said, right? So in the last 6 years of your career, I think the growth which you have had, like, kudos and congratulations for that. Keep inspiring everyone, keep guiding everyone. And guys, if you want to reach out, so his number is public, so I think not to mention, his number is available on Google now, so I but just don't do random calls at night and all. He is very occupied.
No issues, I don't pick.
Yeah.
I have my own like line on that.
Yeah, but thank you so much. I hope you had an amazing time too, but I had a great time talking to you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Great. Thanks, Kushal.
Perfect. Thank you so much.